How was your day? Has it been all right? Yeah? Yeah? Good? You got some plans? You got some good chow? You got to see friends? You got to make new friends? That's wonderful. How many of you are going to be able to be here with us tomorrow? I'll be here. Oh, that's awesome. That is awesome. I want to introduce and welcome to the Baker Creek stage for the first time, Jamo Michelet. Oh, shit. I'm serious, man. I practiced this for like 3 hours. Michelet. Jamo Michelet. Jamo, I don't know how we have not had you here before, Jamo, because you are our neighbor just down the road in Ava, Missouri, the Independent American Gardener community. Jamo is a permaculturalist, an educator, and I can't wait for him to teach you and share with you what he knows. Please welcome Jamo Michelet. I'm guessing this is not the first time.
Not the first time.
Michelet.
You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here. We got a lot we want to talk about today. Is it okay if I take it off of this? There you go. Can you hear me better? Yes. Awesome. Okay. So you don't really know me from Adam. I've come out of nowhere, but we have actually been here for a year. We moved to Ava in April last year. We were up north in Trenton, Missouri for 6 years prior to that. And we spent specifically the last 4 years traveling and teaching all over the United States and up into Canada, permaculture workshops, helping families learn how to become self-sufficient in their backyard. That I think is the bread and butter of what I want to help you achieve. And so I'm going to start this off with just a quick little teaser video to show you some of that, hopefully get you a little excited, and then we'll jump into it. Be the change you want to see in the world. How cool is that? All right, so I don't like rock and guitar and crazy like that, so sorry for the shock and awe. But I had to find a way to show you as fast as possible, as much as possible, because we've been doing this for some time and there's a lot there. One of the coolest things that I get to do in my line of work is meet new families and connect with everybody. So real quick before I start, I just want to invite you to look to your left and get the name of the person sitting beside you. Take just a second and meet the person sitting beside you. If you already know that person, you got to look the other way. All right. Welcome everybody. I'm going to give you another chance to do that and hopefully get some contact information from this group so that you can network a little bit before you go home today. But let's dive into a little bit. Is this the first time? Raise your hand if you've ever heard TIAG before. T-I-A-G. Nice and high for me. Okay, is this the very first time you've ever heard that? Raise your hand. Awesome. Okay, so TIAG, T-I-A-G, or TIAG, some people pronounce it. I pronounce it TIAG. It's an acronym. It stands for the Independent American Gardener. Now, I am the Independent American Gardener. But there's a lot of independent American gardeners in the world, aren't there? In America, right? The more that I think about what I'm trying to create with our networking community under TIAG, the more I realize that I do not have the capacity to do this by myself. And I have known this for 6 years now. The more you meet people, the more you know you don't know. The more you learn, the more you realize you have to learn, right? And so TIAG is incredible because what it is a network, a growing community of empowering individuals who support one another. We are faith, family, freedom oriented. We look at geothermal greenhouses, and we look at passive solar greenhouses. We look at food forests, permaculture design, regenerative agriculture, natural beekeeping, all of these things for the purpose of becoming self-sufficient at home and then growing that out to community. Now, how many of you really, really love your community? Raise your hand. Nice and high if you really love where you live. All right, well, maybe those are different things. Maybe you like your house but not your people. Right? That happens sometimes. What I've come to understand in TIAG is that the more we connect people, the more the differences fade away, and we can find common ground in the ground itself. So I want you to write this down on the screen there, TIAG communities.org. That's TIAGcommunities.org. That's going to take you to the landing page to join the community. Now I'm going to give you a quick heads up. We do use the memberships of our community to fund our mission around the country. That is the bread and butter of how we are able to do what we do. So it's $37 to join the community. And every so often I'm able to give people information and opportunities to make that free, and we'll make other opportunities available. Today is $37. If you do it by the end of the night, and you do it by the booth over there, I'll give you the opportunity to have a discount. But I'm going to surprise you on what that is. I don't know yet, so we'll see. Now, a little bit about me and my background. I was actually born in the Rocky Mountains. I grew up out in southern Utah and northern Utah, and then worked my way out to Arizona, and then went to Wyoming, and I visited a bunch of different states around the West before I even crossed the plains and came out here to the Midwest in 2019. And so most of my background is actually in desert climates. And when we came out here, I was so excited I could basically spit a seed out and it would grow. And so what I did in my time was I was a volunteer firefighter. I was a mechanic. I spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to DIY my way through things because I was poor. I came from a family where at 9 years old they went bankrupt. My family lost the farm, we lost the car, and we moved into the city. And from that point forward, I was forced to get my farming and homesteading experience through friends and third party. And it wasn't until I was about 19 years old when I was at Dixie State University and I was studying biology and philosophy that I came across permaculture. And I realized that was the solution that took all the things that I had an understanding about, that I had surface level knowledge of, and put them all into one science, and a design science. And so permaculture, raise your hand if you're familiar with permaculture. Raise your hand if you think permaculture is gardening. Everybody's unsure. So permaculture is not gardening. Permaculture is not sustainable living, and it is not regenerative agriculture. Permaculture encompasses all of these things, but permaculture is a design science by which to arrive at solutions. And I'll talk a little bit more about what that is in just a minute, but I want to give you kind of an understanding too. Those might be the areas that I came from, but they're not where we are today. Today I'm the founder of the TIAG community. I have traveled and taught all across the United States, spoken with the people like Joel Salatin, been honored to speak with Joel Salatin, and traveled up to Canada and spoke up there. And I've been able to teach and meet in different climates all across the United States. And through the lens of permaculture design is how we make it happen, right? So no matter where you are, you have to approach things differently, right? Your property is not like your neighbor's property. So how do you become self-sufficient just copy pasting what everybody else is doing? It's never going to work for you. And so that's where permaculture design comes in. That's the how, all right? So I just want to get that point through. So as the lead designer of Haven Permaculture, I'm also been blessed to be able to help families design and develop their properties across all of these climates. And we network with other certified designers and professionals to fill the gaps in and make sure that people are getting what they need. This is my wonderful family. I have 7 kids and a beautiful wife there in the corner over there. That's Rihanna Mishlevic. She's filming over there. She is the reason all this works. Actually, can we just get a round of applause for her? This incredible woman let me put her in a camper with 6 kids and drive across the country for 4 years. She's awesome. Now in our time going across the country, I'm going to flip through some of these slides pretty quick because I want to get to the point where I can do some Q&A with you. In our time going across the country, we used what we called demonstration. So when we would do a workshop with somebody, we would go to their backyard, they would host us for the day, and I would lead the workshop and teach a permaculture method, sometimes something simple like hugelculture. And during those workshops, we would pull up slideshows, much like I'm doing now with you, and I would show concepts, designs, real world, actual projects we're doing. This here was Lulu's garden. It was the first Missouri home that we ever lived in, and it was where we started the bulk of this mission and our vision to create self-sufficient regenerative communities across the United States. Now, Lulu's garden was our family's home, so it was designed to meet our needs, because everything that you do at home is for your family, right? So when we're talking about design and we're talking about self-sufficient communities, you can't do what your neighbor's doing. So it gets really complicated and people start trying to ask all these questions that, frankly, they don't even know if they need to ask. We're just trying our best with what information we have available to us. There's a really, really inspiring permaculturist named Jeff Lawton. Has anybody ever heard of him? Raise your hand. You don't know who Jeff Lawton is? Raise your hand if you ever heard Jeff Lawton. Holy cow! That was like the first guy I ever knew about. Jeff Lawton is in the Middle East. He has a project called Greening the Desert. He has turned barren wastelands into fertile fields and grown things in Jordan, one of the harshest environments in the world. Very, very inspiring watching what he's done. Greening the Desert project was what I came across when I was 19. I started learning about permaculture. And he has a quote, he says, all the problems of the world can be solved in the garden. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about why that's possible and why that makes sense, but we'll keep going here. One of the things that we like to do is in our work is we get workshops together to prove that, to build the garden. Everything starts in the garden. If the garden is the solution, it's also got to be the starting point, because why focus on anything else? Now, in our workshops, we like to do this introductory option. Okay, so we basically say, hey, I'll come out and I'll teach your community. It's usually, after travel and lodging to who knows where across the country, it's usually somewhere around the $2,000 mark. And then we do the workshop and they pull everybody together. Sometimes it's 20 people, sometimes it's 4,000 people. The other option is we do this from our nonprofit lens, where we basically say, hey, you finance everything. Figure out how you're going to pull it together. I will then figure out how to finance getting out there. And by offering all of your attendees a packet, a resource packet of education and material specific to your climate before I even get there. Then their ticket pays my way there. So you don't have to be able to finance the whole thing to get a professional out to your property to walk you through all these things. We've tried to make that really, really easy and accessible to everybody, regardless of your situation. And while we're doing those workshops, generally speaking, it starts with food forests. Raise your hand if you've ever heard of a food forest. Okay, raise your hand if you've never heard of a food forest. Okay, I'll give you a snippet of what a food forest is in just a little bit. A food forest is the starting point for us because it's perennial agriculture. Because we're looking at sustainable regenerative communities, why would we look at something that is, you're the bottleneck? Annual agriculture requires you to plant it or create a system that it can self-seed and try your best to manage and maintain that until that property. And that's modern, that's the way that things have been done. And I would like to see that completely switched and reversed. And I'd like to see folks jump into the bandwagon of working in sync with nature. Can you imagine planting something and every year it comes back by itself? And you don't have to do anything, you get to keep harvesting that? Well, that's perennial agriculture, right? That's perennial plants. What's cool about that is that system is evident in nature all over. You ever notice that when you walk away from your garden, it dies, it dries up. If you leave it untended and you go on a trip for 6 months and you come back home, it looks a mess. Or the animals got it, or something crazy going on. But you've never seen God on the side of the mountain with a garden hose, like making sure the forest doesn't die, right? It's because he designed the systems in the world to rain and to fertilize and to self-maintain. That's what a food forest does for us when we leverage those concepts correctly and in design and implementation. And so we talk a lot about design, but we do all of or food forest, but we do all of the food forest work through the lens of permaculture. So I'm going to go back to that. So my favorite quote on what permaculture is the conscious design and maintenance of agriculturally productive ecosystems that have the resilience and abundance of natural ecosystems. It is the harmonious integration of both land and people in a sustainable way. Is that cool? Everybody raise your hand if that's awesome. That's pretty awesome. Integration of land and people in a sustainable way that's resilient and abundant. Wow. So I look at permaculture through a little bit of a different lens because part of my background, if you saw the slides, is emergency preparedness. I like to look at the world like worst case scenario should be planned for, best case scenario should be lived. And so I see the way that the world is going today, and I see these kinds of situations, and I get a little bit wary about where the future is going. And so I look at sustainability as the fundamental way of us all taking care of ourselves through those situations and the unpredictables, right? And one of the ways that I like to do that is I like to frame it around what I call the 4 pillars. The 4 pillars of self-sufficiency, which is food, water, shelter, and surplus. If you own your own food, or the source of your own food, your own water, and your own shelter, then you are in control of the most fundamental needs that you have to remain alive and happy as a family. If you don't own those things, who owns them? Someone else, yeah, municipality. If you're going to the grocery store, where's all your food? It's in the grocery store, right? The grocery store owns that. Where does the grocery store get all their food? Well, it came in on a big truck. Where did the truck get it? From a warehouse, a distribution center. Where does the distribution center get it? Right? We can reverse engineer all of this way before it even touches the farmer. So what's interesting is that it came from the farmer in the beginning, and then it has to go through multiple points of transition before it gets to the grocery store, which then has multiple points of you driving it around and buying it and all these things before it gets to your table. And so that's not very resilient. That's a lot of single points of failure. We remove diesel, the whole thing's done. Interesting. So if families own their own food source, and they can produce their own food from home, and they can become self-reliant in the sense of food security, then what's next? Water. Is anything going to work without water? Absolutely not. No, your animals won't make it, you won't make it. Like, all these elements have a fragility to them without water. But when you add water, you get 10 times the growth when there's water available. We live in an amazing area here. Baker Creek is one of the coolest sights to see. You guys are this is a treat to be able to walk around here. You are in a blessed position right now to be able to walk around and see what Baker Creek has done. Did you see all the food available on the table in there? Could you imagine cranking that much food out of your land and having that available, and all the diversity and the rareness of all those species to be able to share and to teach from? What a demonstration site this is. This is amazing, right? This is what we're talking about. Now what's really cool about that is that water design determines whether or not things succeed. If you have a greenhouse, you don't have any water in it, it dries up. If you've got animal and you can't get water in their trough, they dry up. If you don't have water in your tap, you dry up, right? If your land is the hydrology is great, you got your pipe work, everything's working out good, but then all of a sudden a huge 100-year event comes through and your water plan is not in place, what happens? It washes everything away. Torrential rainfalls devastate homesteads, can completely uproot cities. These are big problems that people aren't designing for. We're just like hoping that it works. We're just putting things in the ground and hoping that they figure themselves out. We're building structures and we're like, yes, this is where I want my house. Well, what's your greater watershed doing? When you get a 100-year flood and you got 5 inches of rainfall in an hour, what's all that gonna do downslope, right? So these are the concepts that we're considering in permaculture design to make sure that you can weather any storm. We want to see our homes become a haven. Does anybody know what a haven is? It's a safe place, a refuge from the storm. A haven by definition is actually a port that ships will pull into from out into the ocean. It's a safe harbor that they'll pull into, wait out the storm, and then go back out to sea. Our homes should be that safe haven for our families. And it shouldn't just be our home, it should be every home down the block. every home down the street, every home in the county, every home in the city. That should be the standard across the country, right? Now, when we get past food and water, what do we get into? It's shelter systems. Our shelter and energy systems are dependent upon municipalities, the grid, generators, solar panels, all of these things, which all come from petroleum at some point or another. And in that process, we have then accepted that we don't know how to source and build and create those things anymore ourselves. And we have permitted our way out of being able to. That is wrong. That is wrong, frankly. And so that's not the America that I want to live in, and so I want to see people decide to make a difference. And in order to make a difference, we need to become industrious again at home. So this is where surplus production comes from, right? Amen. So surplus production is really cool. This is where we actually can, from our own land, produce more than we need to consume and export that out. Have you ever grown more tomatoes than you could eat? Or zucchini, right? Yeah, that's surplus production. So good job. Give yourself a pat on the back. You're started already, right? And we can do the same thing with any element that we decide to focus on. We just had an awesome presentation on chickens a little bit ago. We have the ability to do whatever we want. We can surplus produce in so many cool ways in America. It's astounding. The creativity is endless. Albert Einstein said, creativity is intelligence having fun. So I would like to see us become industrious again and become a creative culture and produce a surplus from home. This is what a permaculture design looks like when you work with Haven Permaculture. This is one that I did for a client in California. It was about 4.5 acres. We have more, and we've got plenty. I'm sure. I'm happy to show you. But the concepts are the same at the foundational level: food, water, shelter, surplus. Right? Now, when you Google permaculture, you basically get to decide to go into like the woo-woo land of things and disconnect from society, or go into kind of the really high-tech engineering level, GIS software level renderings. And there's a happy ground right in the middle. If you disconnect completely from society, you've abandoned GIS tech, and that makes it a lot easier to design your property. If you go further into GIS tech and engineering, that's really inaffordable. It's super expensive. And so there's a happy medium. That's where we try to live with Haven Permaculture, and helping families learn how to do this to create their haven from the world. We want to see you grow food, not lawns, right? That's the famous saying: grow food, not lawns. Every blade of grass in Ava, around the courthouse and all these other places, could be growing something, and it's not, right? So this was Lulu's garden right here. This was one of the first trees I ever planted on the property. And when we started that food forest there, I was the only one growing vertically, and it was kind of a weird talking point for a little bit. And I was hinging on this saying. Bill Mollison said, "Though the problems of the world become ever more complex, the solutions remain embarrassingly simple, like food, water, shelter, surplus." That's super, super simple. If all of us had that under our control, we would be able to devise a barter and trade system. We would be able to devise work groups. You would not be bound to go to work because it would be a choice now. If you don't go to work, you lose everything. You lose your job, then your house is next, and your car, and all the payments attached to anything that money provides, right? And so what happens when you remove money from our society today? Societal collapse. Yeah, I mean, it would be terrible. And so we can't do that overnight. And so we have to free ourselves from the bondage completely. And that's where I like to view permaculture from. It's the tool, it's the solution to do that. I believe the solution is ecosystem-based design and regenerative communities. And food forests at scale, whether urban or rural, are capable of producing that for us and solving those problems at a foundational need. Because in order to do food forests, we have to design for the ecosystem, the waterfall, the terrain, the landform, the structures, the access paths, the fencing, the flora, the fauna, all of these things in order to get that food forest to function. And so if you know a permaculturist in your area that's doing food forests, he's going to be like the golden nugget in your community. Like, go find that guy, get his phone number, and work with him. Now, I want to just help you really fast. How do you get started doing this yourself? Let's say that money is off the table completely and you want to do this 100% free. That's how I started, right? told you I came from being broke. My family was bankrupt at 9 years old. I've been married for about 13 years. When we moved to Trenton, Missouri, everything fell apart for us. I found myself having to start a roofing business to stay afloat. And I don't like construction. I do that because it makes money, right? And I had to provide for my kids. And so I was internally resisting that and in this emotional destructive pattern because it wasn't free. I couldn't feed myself from home, and I was tired of having the bondage of the economic systems, and so I was going to work and I was roofing and I was doing my job and taking care of my responsibilities, but I wanted more out of life. And that's when Tyag hit me like a rock one day. And I threw down everything that I was doing, and I said, you know what, I'm not going to work today. I'm gonna go outside and I'm gonna plant a garden. And I had like the most destructive internal, like I rolled over in the figurative grave. And it was awful because I was in this position where I had to decide between my responsibilities and my calling. And I felt the need to go outside, but I was being called to go to work also. And so they're really tricky. And in that back and forth, I decided to go get pallets, shirk the work, go outside, get pallets, break them down, and build a garden bed. And then I posted that garden bed just for fun at the end of the day and said, you know what? This is really cool. I bet if more people would build more garden beds, we could figure this out together. And I'll go help you, you help somebody else, and each person teach one, and then this will become a system and I'll help pioneer it. I'll spearhead it. What ended up happening was I posted that garden bed online. I took a photo of it, and then a bunch of people started messaging me saying, hey, I want one. I'll pay $175 for that. And I'm like, wait a minute, I didn't go to work today, and I just got offered money. That didn't make sense to me. And so then eventually I started to learn there are parallel economies. I've always been a little bit of an entrepreneur, and that's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about being a business owner and living in that realm. What I'm talking about is the ability to take steps that are in alignment with your calling in life, that do not have a viable logistical outcome that you can foresee and step anyway, and then to watch the abundance just move in. That is mind-boggling. That's God's economy. It is completely mind-boggling and contrary and incompatible with our modern economy. So this is where surplus becomes a reality for us at home. And these are some of the yields from that garden. I started getting into beekeeping and started to produce honey on top of that. We started to sell honey. Then we started to sell beehives. And then I started to teach and started to consult. And in all of this time, how am I doing on time?
You have 15 minutes.
Okay. In all this time, what I was learning was that it's really simple. It's really, really simple. The solutions to make all this happen are really simple, right? So let me just blaze through this really, really fast. Is everybody following? Did I lose you? Raise your hand if I still got you. Awesome. Okay. Raise your hand if you have no mulch on your garden. I'm going to give you the solutions really quick to make massive improvements. Actually, let me start it this way. Raise your hand if you have a garden. Okay, raise your hand if you have acreage and agricultural yields. Okay. Do you have row crop? Do you have food forest? Okay, so we're talking gardens. All right, so when you're looking at your garden, raise your hand if you have mulch on it. Do you know what mulch is? Raise your hand. Raise your hand if you don't know what mulch is.
I'm living mulch.
There you go. That's the starting of a food forest there. Okay, so mulch we're talking wood chips. Okay, so that's a great example. Wood chips is how we start a food forest. So this is elderberry right there from Lulu's garden 6 years ago. That's my hand beside my elderberry there, grown in the wood chips pictured beside it there. That is 12 inches of wood chips. And that elderberry was like 12 foot tall, and the flower clusters were bigger than my head. And I did nothing. I put it in the ground and I walked away. It's elderberry, it's native, right? It does its own thing. What's interesting, though, is that when you create the conditions for something, that thing thrives. Interesting. So we can do that again and again and again. And so I found this graphic on Google one day, and I looked into this, and I was really intrigued. When you don't have mulch, you are losing up to 80% of the water sprayed on that land between wind and sun. Wind will evaporate water faster than direct sunlight. And so now you're wicking all that water away that you're paying to put on it, right? And then, if you put 2 inches of mulch, if the equation flips and 80% is retained. That is simple. Simple for an 80% flip. Holy cow. So now we're talking about living mulch, right? Living mulch is the end goal. That's the vision that you're trying to get to. When you get to living mulch, your systems are doing things for you. You're starting to feed the microbial life in the soil. This comes from companion planting in the lens of permaculture and food forest design. This is a guild planted around an almond tree, or I'm sorry, a black walnut, which you're not supposed to, apparently. Somebody told me. I've been doing it. But I planted around that, and I got all this yield from it. And so here's what is interesting as well. Modern science, and it says don't plant around black walnut because juglone will inhibit the growth. But then I planted around black walnut, and I didn't have an inhibit of my growth. Guess how many plants are growing right there? 10, what was it? 20? Let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Maybe that was 20. Might have skipped one. That's a lot. All of those produced me a yield, and I placed them once, and then I walked away from them. What's interesting about that is that it's contrary to what you're being told to do. And maybe that was unique to that tree. Maybe it was juglone content was super low in the soil. But what that tells us is that there is no one size fits all. It tells us that design is necessary and creative thinking is necessary. This was a hugelkultur mound with ambrosia melons planted on it. I transitioned after year 2 into experiment bed, and I added strawberries and garlic to that companion planting system. And this was Lulu's garden, a quarter of the food forest before we left. I used the elm tree to grow apple gourds because I didn't want to build a trellis. And so the tree became a living trellis. So what's really cool about that is that nature's doing all this for me. I didn't do anything. I just looked at it and then I said, hey, this is already working without me. Can I just switch the plants? And I did, and it worked. I got rid of the poison ivy and put in grapes. And all of a sudden the vines were still vining, but they were producing new grapes. Interesting. So what I learned in all of that experience was that we have the ability to learn from nature more than we are being, I guess, helped to learn from nature. We're not getting that education. And so I started putting it out. And I traveled around the country and started telling everybody about this and spreading good news, basically. So on our YouTube channel, you can go to The Independent American Gardener, and you'll find this video. This is about bee bread. You can overdose on vitamins from bee bread. Bee bread is fermented pollen out of a hive. They ferment their pollen before they eat it. They don't eat raw pollen. And that's their protein source. They're the only creature that ferments their own honey or their own food source before they consume it. So I did a video on that. This is a food forest design graphic. So I put this together and I put it in the community's digital resource library so that people could learn what dynamic accumulators are. Did you know that there's more plants than just nitrogen fixers that fix things in the soil? Is that news to you? Raise your hand. I'm gonna say it again. There are dynamic accumulators which accumulate nutrients of all different sorts and then deposit them on the topsoils or fixate them in the soils, and they fix the nutrients in the soil. So what that means is you don't need to fertilize anymore. Is that a news flash? Isn't that cool? So clover doesn't even fix nitrogen unless you shed the top growth. That's why we till it in. It'll shed the nitrogen nodules when you cut the top growth. But if you just plant it and leave it alone, it's not doing that. So there's more and more to this, right? So now you can look at resilient property design. You can get contour maps for free on the internet, and that'll tell you where your water is going, right? And the higher tech you use and the more professionals you get, the more accurate that will be, but there are free sources, right? Now in the TIA community, what we've done is we brought some of these professionals together, like myself, and we do live webinars and recordings so that we can address specific questions that you have in your own home and in your own community. This was a picture of me teaching a group of VIPs with Joel Salatin last year at the Homestead Iowa Summit. And I was blown away to be able to do that, by the way. I just want to say I was honored to speak by Joel Salatin. What a legend. Holy cow. That was great. And he's not far from here. Don't remember where his farm's at, Polyface, but there are professionals like that all around us. We just heard from some of them today. We're gonna hear some more later. And so we don't need to do everything ourselves. You need to stop trying to do everything by yourself. Your neighbor knows something that you don't know, and even if it's not everything that you know, and you know that they know some things that are wrong, you can still learn some things from them that you didn't know, right? So we have to stop pretending that we have all the answers, and we have to start asking each other how to do this, because we will move so much faster as a community. Now, you can host another event with me. I'm not going to go into any of that right now, but I'm happy to come and help you. The permaculture workshops at your home, I want you to use your locals for that. I will help you learn how to do that in your own community so that you don't have the costs, or you can pay me to come out as well. Attend the Tayag community workshop at our farm. We just purchased a farm after 5 years of doing this. It was a huge milestone for us. I announced it at the Iowa Summit with Joel that we have a 20-acre farm off-grid in a passive solar barn-dominium in Avon. Very, very cool. Now I have one more announcement I'm going to announce today. We just got an investor of $12,000 to purchase and secure and develop the wood that we need for our insulated horizontal hives of 30 regenerative. The 30 hive regenerative apiary demonstration will begin on our farm in June. That's cool. That's cool. That one I've been very excited about for a long, long time. This is my dad. I just got him into beekeeping in Wyoming, and I was able to help him get into one of our hives. We've been building and manufacturing these hives for 4 years, and he's been a big help to me, so I was honored to be able to help him. And I just want to conclude, because I know I'm running out of time here, and I hope that what you're getting from me here and what I'm explaining to you is that your neighbor has solutions for you. Nature's already doing the work for you, and we're overcomplicating a lot of things. Now I want to give you a quick framework. If we're letting nature do the work for us, we have examples, okay? Really fast. Natural beekeeping. I'm not going to dive into it. I know tons of people asking about the booth about that. I'm going to tell you, please join the community and then come see us in Ava, and we'll talk more about bees, okay? But bees have a thing going on that we need to observe. They have a colony that everybody's got a job and everybody's doing something. You ever notice that? Completely well-oiled machine. Even when they go through hell and high water, for some reason they're able to pull through. Why is that? Everybody knows what they're doing. So I suggest we create what's called work groups. Inside the Tayag community program, we have what we call Tayag Guru Crews. The gurus are basically those folks who are really good at something and have volunteered their time to help other people do it. They can be paid or they can be voluntary. And in both of those cases, they're available and making themselves available to help their local community. A Tayag community, by definition, is hyper-local. The city is producing surplus. The county is producing surplus that the city cannot produce. There's a barter and trade between these. This is how we enter the world of what's called circular economies, hyper-local barter and trade. Now, there's a lot more there I don't have time for, so I'm going to leave you with this. Please take the initiative. If you like what I've shared with you here, go to tayagcommunities.org and join in there. We have tons and tons of free resources for you and digital downloads to help you in your climate. And then if you see something that you need and you don't see in there, I will personally go out of my way to make sure that we get it for you. So it really is about family. It really is about you. And if you're not doing what you need to be doing in your own community to get self-sufficient there, we'll step in and help you. But you got to let us know, and you got to be part of the community so that we can help you, right? We don't even know you. So let us know so we can connect, right? So that's why I've created this space. So I'm going to leave that on the board, and really fast. There's a power in nature that is not to be underestimated. When we overcomplicate things, it tends to put us in the place of God, I think. And these systems have been operating over our heads for generations. Nothing we do today is going to stop that until, well, hell and high water come, right? But I would suggest expect abundance. Expect abundance, live for that abundance, let nature work for you, and make your home a haven. The world all around you is working in your favor, my friends, and this is what it's all about. Now you can come and talk to us some more. We're down the road, right? We're down the path right there. Our booth is on the corner right before the food trucks, and happy to discuss more. If you want help getting into the community, if it's not working for you, come and see us there and we can get you taken care of. Otherwise, thank you so much. Thank you, Baker Creek, for having me. I appreciate it.
Jamie, thank you so much for the presentation. I hope you will not be a stranger. Again, we are happy that you are among us in the Ozarks, and I learned a lot today, and I think other people did too. We're going to talk about beans here in a few minutes, but you have a chance to go out, get a cold drink, stretch your legs, feel the fresh breeze, and come back, please.
Thank you.
暑い。いいね、これ。うん。
Thank you so much.
重たくて持っていくの大変。